Hetepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Qesankh Keperu with a special update on the Ocean Gate Titanic Submariner. So let's get right into this. And as a preface, I just want to let you know I just got out of the hospital recently, so I'm still a little bit weak. You probably can tell that in my voice. Now, this submarine went missing, I believe it was over the weekend. And if you don't know about the story, it's five very daring explorers who had this submariner, which they call Ocean Gate, constructed by a private company. And the goal was that all five of them would go down to the depths to take a look at the Titanic shipwreck. Well, the problem was that on going down, the Coast Guard lost contact with them. And this was very concerning. So many people have been hoping and praying. They were talking about they only had about 40 hours of oxygen left, and the fear would be they would suffocate from, you know, oxygen starvation. Now, the news recently just came out that all five of them have perished and that the submarine imploded 3/4 of the way down. And just from some reports, it seemed like they tried to come up, um, make an emergency ascent, but didn't make it. And again, it imploded, killing all five members. I want to talk a little bit about this, but I want to make sure I'm very respectful to these five explorers, these five individuals. It would seem from the very beginning that shortcuts were taken. This submariner, Ocean Gate, did not go under inspection and did not receive certification. One of my favorite directors, James Cameron, who's made 33 dives to the Titanic, from the beginning had grave concerns about the submariner. And when I took a look at the video of the tour of it, not only was it very, very cramped spaces, but one of the individuals who was giving you the tour showed you like a PlayStation remote control, which could control the submariner going forward and going backwards. To me, that was alarming to see something like that. And then hearing more about the types of shortcuts that were taken, the lack of certification, it just had all the makings of a disaster. Now, why am I addressing this on my channel? I'm an empath. That means that I feel for what happened to these individuals. But I'm not going to go into the details of the private company and what they did wrong and what these five individuals did wrong. I want to talk about this from a very, very spiritual perspective. And this may seem a bit morbid, but please stay with me. I want to get into the actual death of these individuals and talk about that. In the very beginning, and I think James Cameron said it best, that when the submariner went missing, for him, that was a sign that there had to be an implosion with debris scattered everywhere. Because if this submariner hit the bottom of the ocean, all of these rescue missions, I believe the Russians were involved, the Germans were involved, they would have found this submariner. But the mere fact that they could not find it, what James Cameron was saying, and led him to believe on Monday that it had to be some type of implosion. Again, 3/4 of the way down to the Titanic. So they never really made their death goal. Now, many people especially on Facebook, were very disrespectful in putting up these god-awful memes. But the thing that many people did touch on was how they felt for these 5 individuals. One who was a billionaire. Why do I point that out? I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Many people felt for them because they said it's the most horrible way to go in this cramped space, dying from oxygen starvation. Now, that was the first scenario. And the second scenario, which we found, which is what actually happened, because they found the debris, was the instant implosion, which meant that these individuals died instantaneously. They may have had a sign that the structure was going, because they had sensors inside that could detect, I guess, possible hull breaches. Let's talk about scenario number 1. What would you do if you were faced with a situation in a cramped space going down to the depths of the ocean, the dark ocean, knowing that you had little oxygen left and little hope for rescue? What would you do? Well, I tell you what you should do is to sit quietly, accept what is about to happen, and know that you are consciousness and that you will reincarnate and come back, that you are not the flesh, and that the avatar, the vehicle, may be destroyed or die, but consciousness will live on. And if you could meet your impending doom with amen, with peace, then that will help in your afterlife ascension. And this is hard for many people because a lot of us will have the animal spirit take over, which is panic, turning against one another, crying, begging God. And we have to understand that in those few moments that are left, that we are God. We are one with the Creator of all. And there is nothing to fear. And if you want to know more about this, study and read up on the Holocaust victims before they were put to death. Many of them were strong individuals who didn't break under pressure or from the threats from the Nazis. And this is the goal for many of us. Not all of us can do this. It takes a strong, mature mind. This is why we study spirituality. Let's look at the second scenario of the implosion and the instant death. The issue with this way to go is that more than likely it was a immediate and quick death, which probably was the best way to go. However, the afterlife experience will be so problematic. Why do I say that? Because they don't know the shock of the quick death in the afterlife. Their souls or spirits don't know they've died. And that's very, very problematic as they wander the duat, as the Egyptians call it, the underworld. In the Bhagavad Gita and the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Haru, much attention is paid to maintaining your will during death. Because if you can maintain your will during death, then you will know who you are, and there will be no fear. So I want you to think about all of this I've said. And again, the reason I made this video was because I'm an empath and I can feel for these individuals. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the billionaire. What this proves is that money cannot buy you out of certain situations. Because in that Samaritan, they were all equal. There were no billionaires. There were no middle income people. They all were the same. And although he was a billionaire, there's nothing his money could do to help him. I want you to think about that for those of you who strive for this life to be rich, and that's all you care about. So, with that said, I want to thank you for tuning in. Practice your spirituality. It can save you. This is Qesankh Ma'akaparu, son of Ma'at Tuhudi. Ma'at is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, Amen Ra.